Welcome back into the Rowdy Studio. I'm Stephen Levine, Tom Vandervoort on the end. Sprint Cup driver JJ Yeley sitting here with us to talk a little Chicagoland Speedway. You know, JJ, everybody talks about these downforce tracks as cookie-cutter tracks, but even if you use the same blueprints, it's not like any two tracks are going to be exactly alike. Correct. What makes Chicago unique?
Well, for Chicago, it is now the one and only mile and a half that is semi-banked. Before, you had the original Vegas, you had Kansas, and you had Chicago. You know, those Las Vegas being redone a couple years ago, Kansas Speedway now just having the renovation between the spring race and the fall race. It's the only semi-banked mile and a half racetrack we have left. You know, the shape of it is a little bit more unique. The back straightaway is actually curved,
right?
Where I think that's the only mile and a half that we run that's like that. But the biggest thing is you just don't have the banking that you do these other racetracks. And to me, I think it makes the racing better. The race, you know, the cars will generally get tighter. The groove widens out. You see 2 and 3 groove racing, where the higher bank racetracks, you don't see that, especially since they've been repaved, because they just have the grip, and usually the shortest way is the fast way.
I see speeds there going down into one, getting up over 200 miles an hour without the banking to hold the car. How challenging is that?
You know, the Chicago, because of where it is located, I mean, it's lost a lot of grip over the years. You know, not to the extent that you have like in Atlanta,
right,
but because it doesn't have the banking, the cars do slip around quite a bit. You know, it's got some bumps, and you listen to all the drivers for the past 3 or 4 races that they really enjoy the car sliding around. It makes it more difficult to drive. It makes it more of a challenge to get the cars handling versus the racetracks that have a lot of grip, because then, you know, it brings mass horsepower back in. You know, NASCAR's already put you in a semi-sized box for what you can do with the cars and the bodies. So the racetracks where it's really, really difficult to find that grip makes it more fun, because it puts the driver. It makes you use a bigger percentage of what it takes to be successful.
Right. And how about communication as far as changing the race car? Does it car tend to change a lot over the course of a race, over the course of a run here?
No, absolutely. You know, I think the weather's gonna be a lot nicer in Chicago when we come back, so the racetrack should have grip. You know, usually a place like that, you know, you have to start pretty free on the front end because the cars lose grip. You get tighter and tighter, but communication is definitely vital. You know, track position at all the mile and a halves is, no matter what, that's just that's the world we live in with these COT cars. That you can see a guy take 2 tires that's been struggling all day, but once he gets out in front of the field, his car will come to life.
And then, it being a 1.5 mile downforce track, do we also think fuel mileage is going to be an issue, is going to come into play towards the end of this race?
I think that's probably going to happen. I mean, that's really been the trend over, you know, the last year or two. I know that I actually got in trouble pushing Matt Kenseth at the last Chicago race.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Remember
just
that.
To bring that
And you were just trying to help out
being a good guy.
Just trying to help
Everyone
out
gets
a
mad
guy.
at you.
Yeah, it was a
right.
fellow Ford guy. You know, when you got a guy waving you like this, and
you just
well, you know, and
give
the
and
plus
take,
side
right?
I'd blown a tire. I was already wrecked. So I mean, I obviously was out of contention for any kind of good finish, and yeah, that didn't go so well.
That didn't mean you couldn't make a positive difference.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
All right. Well, so if you're not going to find victory lane, and we have every confidence that you will, who do you like? What driver do you think has a good shot at victory at Chicagoland?
You know, it can go a lot of different ways. You know, obviously the sport has been topsy-turvy. You know, I know Tony Stewart runs really, really well at Chicago. He's been in a slump here of late. You know, maybe this is the time for him to turn it around. The Fords generally have been very strong. So you look at Biffle, you look at Kenseth of running well. You know, I think the big question we're going to have, or most people are going to have going into Chicago, is the new rule changes that NASCAR has implemented with skewing the rear ends and the movement that they have. And
explain to us, for the layman, exactly what Hendrick was doing with that skewed rear end and what the change is encompassing.
Because we had that controversy about dog track in the rear end a couple of years ago.
Sure.
Is it in that similar vein?
It's similar. And I don't know exactly what Hendrick is doing, or obviously I'd be able to make my car a lot better myself. But you know, watching the 48 car like at Bristol, as the car drives, it allows the rear end to move under acceleration, which changes the lead, which helps turn the car. You know, they can control how much that wheel moves. Again, I don't know the specifics, but you watch the 48 like at Bristol, when he would go into the corner, the left rear tire looked like it moved forward 2 inches. You know, what the exact numbers, I don't know. But I mean, it was significant that you could tell looking through the infield, where none of the other cars did that. Some of them did it, but nothing to the extent that the 48 did. You know, I've heard that the 88 does it quite a bit. So obviously it's going to affect the Hendrick cars. Not that everybody was trying to do it. I mean, this is a monkey see, monkey do sport. And if someone's doing something, they're winning races, there's engineers on every one of these teams. They're going to be trying to figure out what they can do to get that same
And
advantage.
they're eventually going to figure it out. And the hope would be that you figure something else out before they figure that out.
Exactly. So, now that you're basically taking the Hendrick cars who have figured it out before everyone else, and you're going to bring them back a half a step. Obviously it's not going to just completely kill their program, because I'm sure, Casey Kane may not like what Jimmy Johnson is, the difference in the driver feel, but it's definitely going to bring those guys back just a little bit. So if they had a huge advantage, now it's a small advantage, or maybe it's more of an even playing field, but it's something that's going to be a little bit different that those guys haven't been dealing with for the past 10 races or so.
All right. With our preview of Chicagoland and a little bit more, that's JJ Yeley. Tom's on the end. I'm Steven. Thanks for watching.